In society, we glamorize starting something. We celebrate it, we congratulate people when they start something new. But if you think about that logically, the important, unavoidable thing we all have to do before we start the next thing, before we start the next relationship, the next job, the next business venture, is quit the last thing. And it's so clear to me that the most successful people I've encountered, the most incredible entrepreneurs, athletes, whatever, they've all got a remarkable ability to quit something at the right time with a certain level of certainty and or peace that allows them to never overstay their welcome in a situation that is no longer serving them. They say quitting is for losers, and that narrative, I think, has made people so hesitant to quit something because of that loss aversion that we all have in our minds, that fear of what people will think if we leave. The truth is, quitting is for winners. It is the incredibly important thing you have to do before you start the next thing. So in life, it's not about perseverance despite the circumstances. It's knowing exactly when to quit and quitting quickly so that you can move on to the next thing without incurring years and years and sometimes decades of wasted time. And this principle, of course, is a business one, but it applies to your relationships, to the city you live in, to the job you have, and everything in between. I made a quitting framework to help people understand when the right time to quit is. And I made this framework because there's been key moments in my life, whether it was school, whether it was university, my first startup, my second business, lots of relationships in between, where I've been able to quit with a certain level of peaceful conviction that has sometimes shocked people. Why is Steve able to leave this huge company? Why is he able to leave that relationship where there's so much on the line and there's so many friends that are interconnected to the relationship? Well, it's because I've always resorted back to this unconscious framework, which a couple of years ago I wrote down to help other people quit with the same level of ease so they don't overstay their welcome in situations that aren't serving them. And the top of the framework starts with that all-important question, are you thinking about quitting something? And if the answer is yes, the next question becomes, why are you thinking about quitting it? And here I provide you with two options in my chart. You're either thinking of quitting something because it's hard, and I'll let you define that in your own terms, which is important, or you're thinking about quitting something because it sucks, and you can define that for yourself in your own situation. If you're thinking about quitting something because it's hard, when I say hard, I mean you're on the 25th mile of a marathon and there's physical pain in your body and your brain is telling you, every fiber in your body is telling you to stop. That kind of hardship, struggle, because hardship in life isn't a bad thing. In fact, we all need meaningful challenge in order to be motivated and engaged with our work. But that's the key word, meaningful challenge. So the next question becomes, okay, it's hard. Are the rewards on offer worth the hardship? And if the hardship is worth the reward, for example, you're on the 25th mile of that marathon and you're raising money for a charity that's close to your heart, then carry on going and don't quit. Because life is supposed to be full of hard, meaningful challenges. We are most engaged and most motivated when the challenge is difficult, but subjectively meaningful and worthwhile to us. But if your hardship isn't worth the reward on offer, then quit, because there's nothing worse in life than doing something that is hard but meaningless. And going down the other side of the framework, you're thinking of quitting something because it sucks. And that's more about a psychological feeling you're getting from the situation you're in. You might be in a marriage and you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. You might be in a professional situation like an office where there's someone there being mean to you and not treating you very well. Or you might be 4 years into running a business that you just don't enjoy anymore because the board of directors are making the work joyless and soul destroying. The next question becomes, do you believe you could make it not suck? Is there something you could do to make it not suck? Could you go to marriage counseling and address it in that environment? Could you go up to your boss and let him or her know about the situation at work? Could you have an uncomfortable conversation with your board of directors to change the situation? If it sucks and you don't believe you could make it not suck, then you have to quit as quickly as you possibly can. If you believe you could make it not suck, we come back to the question on the other side of the framework. Is the effort it would take to make it not suck worth the rewards on offer at the other side of that battle? I.e., is going to marriage counseling to save your marriage even worth it? Is having that really difficult conversation with your CEO about that person in the office who's making you feel really uncomfortable, is it worth the job on the other side? Is fighting to change your board of directors possible and worth the rewards on the other side for you? If it's not, if the battle isn't worth the reward, then quit. But if that battle to change things is worth it, then stay and fight. For everyone that has achieved anything profoundly important or significant in their life, anybody that we call a success story, they've had to understand and they've had to have a relationship with uncertainty, a healthy, rational relationship with uncertainty. Uncertainty causes us tremendous amounts of psychological discomfort, which we express as fear. But uncertainty and confronting it and being okay with it is a requirement to move forward in any facet of your life. And I think the people that are most successful over the long term have a healthy relationship with not just failure and fear, but also a healthy relationship with understanding the role of uncertainty, the requirement of uncertainty. And that in any walk of our lives, when we're stepping out and pushing forward and going for growth, uncertainty is an unavoidable byproduct and consequence of that decision. It's those that are able to choose the uncertainty over the certain misery of their current situation that are able to step out, build the business, and get the success that their talent deserves. For me, the biggest thing that's helped me to overcome fear is getting really clear on what matters in my life. Because when we overestimate or underestimate the importance of certain things in our lives, then fear takes on a completely different frame. If your objective in your life is to be happy and fulfilled, then you should be scared of all of the things that are stopping you from being happy and fulfilled. And in my story, and in my case, that was university. It was the fear of getting a corporate job. And so the risk wasn't pursuing entrepreneurship. The risk was staying in a situation that wasn't going to get me to my North Star. It's only in the context of understanding our North Star that we can understand what the risk really is and what we should be fearful of. Because if you are unhappy in your current situation, if you know that your talent and your life is capable and deserving of more, then the thing you should be scared of, the risk in your life, is doing nothing to pursue the thing that would make you most fulfilled and most happy. That is the risk. That is the thing you should be fearful of. And sometimes we accidentally underestimate and overestimate what we should really be scared of, what really should cause us fear, because our priorities are coming from external sources. You have to first understand what you truly want in your life to understand where the risk lies. And once you're clear on where you want to go in your life, that should consequently readjust what the risk is and what the fear is too. And you can reframe that to make sure the fear and the risk is actually in your favor, meaning not starting this business is the biggest risk in your life. That should be the thing you're fearful of. And I have to say, for most people who come to me and they say, I want to start something, I'm 37 years old, I'm sat at home, I've got this idea, but I've got this job and I don't want to lose it. The question I always pose back to them is this a door that you could walk back through? Most of our decisions can be fit into type 1 or type 2 decisions. Type 1 decisions are decisions where if you made the decision and it turned out you were wrong, you could come back through the door and make a different decision. You could go back to the job. And type 2 decisions are decisions where if we walk through that door, it shuts behind us. If you believe you could come back to your current situation, you could come back to your job, then you've got to start. You've got to start and you've got to do it soon. If you don't think you could, if you couldn't get back to the job or the position you're in now, if you took this decision, then you need to take a little bit more time and assess the practicalities of making this decision. But in most people's case, they intuitively know that if they started this business and for whatever reason, if it didn't go to plan, they could come back to the situation or job that they're currently in right now. If that's you, go for it.